be a very primitive area, and the people down the low country referred to us as mountain sprouts. But we became a bustling town very quickly, and there were lots of interesting people that moved here to help this town become successful. One of those was a man by the name of James Dawson Smith. He came from Greenville. He was a successful merchant in Greenville. And he decided he needed to expand his business and move to some bigger town from Greenville, so he decided to move to Pendleton. Shows you how fast Pendleton was growing. Another interesting man who moved here was John Miller. He came from England in the 1790s. He moved from England. He was a publisher there, and he wanted freedom of the press. He had been actually taken to court for the Junius letters. Those were letters that were published by his paper, the London Evening Post, and they were exposing corruption in the government, and that was not highly thought of there. And he wanted his freedom to publish what he wanted to, so he moved to the colonies. Moved to South Carolina, started the first daily paper in South Carolina. Then he moved to Pendleton, and he started the Miller's Weekly Messenger, became known as the Pendleton Weekly Messenger. And at the time he was publishing that, it was the westernmost paper being published in the United States. So that just shows you, at that time, Pendleton was the Wild Wild West. Do any of you know where St. Paul's Church is? Another little tidbit about our town. St. Paul's Church is a beautiful little Episcopal church, and it's significant as a church, but also as a graveyard. There are so many very important men buried there. 6 of our Civil War generals. General Bernard B. is buried there. Benjamin Huger. If you've ever been to Charleston, there's a street called Huger, and it's pronounced Huger. We know you're a genuine South Carolinian if you know how to pronounce that correctly. It's Huger. So the Secretary of State buried there, Minister to China under President Buchanan. This is John C. Calhoun. This is her husband. He is not buried there. He's buried in Charleston with several of her children. And Thomas Clemson, the founder of Clemson University, is buried there. A little interesting fact about the church of St. Paul is the bell. There were hard times during the Confederate War, the Civil War, and they had to have ammunition, and they melted down the bell from that church to make bullets. They took it to Macon, Georgia, melted it down, and made bullets for our soldiers. But it has a bell now, and that bell came from the steamboat Seabrook. That steamboat went from Charleston to Edisto Island, and that was the bell that pealed when Lafayette visited us in 1825. He was invited by President Monroe to come visit what we had then, the 24 states. Some other famous people that are buried at famous graveyards here are like at our Old Stone Church. Anyone know what Old Stone Church? Beautiful Old Stone Church right off Highway 76. I'm going towards what would be Clemson at some Fort Hill. That's the town of the home of John C. Calhoun. Robert Anderson, General Robert Anderson, and Andrew Pickens, this gentleman up here, are both buried at Old Stone Church graveyard. And Pickens was the Brigadier General during the Revolutionary War. He did a lot of treaties with the Indians and was the one that decided who got land after the Revolutionary War. He had action at the Siege of Charleston, the Siege of Augusta, and Cowpens. He established Hopewell Plantation that's over there on the Clemson grounds. He was a member of the United States House of Representatives. And Robert Anderson, these names should sound familiar if you know anything about here. Pickens County, Anderson County, and Anderson was the Revolutionary War hero himself. Anybody ever go downtown Pendleton, you know where Farmers Hall is? You ever seen that sundial that's out there in front of it? Beautiful sundial. You know, that is such an old sundial. It was donated by this man, Francis Huger. And he was a great fan and admirer of Lafayette. Lafayette spent time in Huger's home in Charleston when Huger was a young boy. And this was, of course, during our Revolutionary War. Later on, Francis Huger, as was typical of men at that era, went to get his education in Europe. He was studying medicine. And while he was there, he found out that Lafayette was in prison in Austria, where he was going to study. And someone came to him, approached him, and said, "Are you interested in helping us break him out of jail or free him from prison?" And so he became part of that plot to break Lafayette out. And they had great espionage tactics. They had invisible ink made with lemon juice so that they could send messages. And the plot was successful. They actually freed Lafayette, but their escape plan was flawed. So when they really didn't know where to meet up with afterwards, so they were quickly apprehended, and all the people involved were thrown into jail. Lafayette back in jail, and Mr. Huger. But it came out all right. They survived. Pendleton was famous for agriculture. You know, Clemson was Clemson College when they established it. I mean, it was everything was based on agriculture around here. If you go down this road, there's a house called Montpelier down the road, Samuel Maverick. He was one of the most wealthy South Carolinians. He started all kinds of agriculture here in South Carolina. He started out very humbly in Charleston, selling fruit and vegetables on the streets, but then bought lots of land and became a big agriculturalist himself. You probably talked about Mr. Broyles when you were going through the house. He had actually won a prize for raising the most rice on an acre of land here. Now, you can't grow rice up here. I don't know why he was growing rice up here, but he did grow some rice here. They also did Jersey cattle on this particular land. And all this sort of grew into the development of Clemson University or Clemson College at that time, being an agriculture college, because there was so much interest in agriculture at that time.